welcome to church. What an incredible day, as cold as it is, to be in a warm building, right? Man, if you are just joining us today, we are kicking off 2026 by studying the book of Nehemiah. And we are also in our 21 days of prayer and fasting. And so if you're new here and you're just getting to this, and that's all right, you don't have to try to catch up, but we're 14 days down. We're 7 to go. And it's been a really good 14 days. And if you haven't had the opportunity to get our daily email that we send out at 6 a.m. every morning, you can do so. There's a QR code on the screen coming up in just a second that you can scan, and you can get that way, and it'll send you one for the next, Monday through Saturday of this week. It'll send you just a quick devotion and a prayer focus and some scripture that you can read and just give you some inspiration for the day. And so I hope you take that and utilize it. I hope if you have signed up and you're getting it every day, I hope it's very useful for you every morning. It hits my inbox at 6 a.m. and I'm the one that put them in there, and I still have to read it to remember it. So, but these weeks kind of build upon each other, and so I want to kind of recap where we are in the story of Nehemiah. And so Nehemiah is a Hebrew living in Persia, which is modern day Iran, which is in the news a lot right now. And so he works for King Artaxerxes as his cupbearer. And he gets the news that the walls around Jerusalem, some almost 1,000 miles away, are burned and busted and broken down, and it just crushes him. The text says that he knelt down, he wept, and he prayed, and he fasted. And he fasted for 4 months. 21 days sounds really good when you're talking about 4 months, right? And so he fasts for 4 months, and during that time of fasting and prayer, the Lord is preparing him not only to go before King Artaxerxes and make some requests to go to Jerusalem and rebuild the walls, but he's being prepared to actually go and rebuild the wall. And so he does go before the king. The king grants his request, and he gets to Jerusalem. And so we're bridging the gap between last week and this week now. So he's in Jerusalem. He examines the wall. He takes a few days just to look at the wall, look at the ruins, see what's needed, and then he starts to divide people out and put them in basically work groups. And he has 42 different crews that begin building the wall. That in of itself is a miracle that he gets 42 different crews working in the same direction to accomplish one mission. And so he's got that, and here we are. We're going to be in Nehemiah 4 today, and as you're turning there, let me ask you this question. Have you ever felt like the moment that you do something that you feel like God has called you to do, have you ever felt the moment that you do that, everything starts falling apart? Have you ever been there, right? And you're sitting there and you're like, what? I took the step that Pastor Mickey keeps telling me to take. Like, he talks about next steps all the time. And I took that step, and then everything falls apart, right? You started to serve, and someone didn't like how you were doing it, and they told you, right? Ever been there? Yeah. You start to give, you start to be generous, and you don't get 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 flat tires, right? Right? You've been there, right? You say, I'm gonna go to work today, and I'm gonna share Jesus with this coworker, and then you share them, and you're like all pumped up about it, and all of a sudden they just come back rudely and tell you, I don't believe in that stuff, right? It's criticism, it's obstacles, it's hostility, and you do start to wonder, God, did I miss something? Like, was I not listening? Was it the pizza I ate last night, and that was what was trying to tell me to do this, or what? Maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. Let me tell you, when you come up against opposition, it's not always a sign you're on the wrong path. In fact, many times it's confirmation it's exactly where you need to be, that you're right in the center of God's will. And I know we don't think about it this way, but I believe opposition, it's not proof of that God is absent. I think it's evidence that he's at work. And this is what we're going to learn from Nehemiah today as he faces opposition in building the wall. And so here's what I would say. Today, really, this is really spiritual warfare, if we want to call it what it is, right? Opposition is spiritual warfare. And we're actually, in 2 weeks, we're going to start a whole 9-week series, 9-week series on spiritual warfare. And we're just going to talk about it for the good period of time leading up to Easter, because it's something we all battle. And so this is we're setting some groundwork for that today, of how to kind of go into that. And so I'm excited about that series. And so, but when you are doing God's work, trust me, opposition will come. And this is where Nehemiah's at. So Nehemiah chapter 4, beginning in verse 1, it says, when Sanballat heard that they were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews. And in the presence of his associates in the army of Samaria, he said, "What are those feeble Jews doing? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burned as they are?" And Tobiah the Amorite, who was by his side, said, "What are they building? Even a fox climbing up on it would break down their wall of stones." So if you're taking notes, I hope you are. First thing I would tell you is opposition will come first by discouragement. It will always come first through discouragement. As soon as the walls start getting rebuilt, the mocking starts. This is biblical trash talk. This would be like your mama jokes in the Bible right here, right? If you had a business, this would be like them giving you a 1-star review. It would look something like this: attempted to rebuild, workers look weak, materials questionable, pretty sure a fox can knock it down. Wouldn't recommend it, right? But see, these guys, Sanballat and Tobiah, they're not swinging swords. They're swinging insults, right? Like, mockery is the cheapest form of opposition because it doesn't really cost you anything. But it steals your confidence. And it's one of the enemy's most effective weapons, because it doesn't just attack what we're doing, it really attacks who we are at our deepest core, at our soul. It makes you question yourself, and it makes you get to that point. It's like, it makes you question, did I hear right? Did I hear God properly? What was going on? Questions God's calling? Like, some of you have been there. You stood up for your faith. You've experienced it in your family, when you say, I'm going to take a step and I'm going to start living for Jesus. You've heard the whispers, right? And the message is always the same. Who do you think you are? You're not qualified to do that. As a pastor, you'd be surprised how many people come to me and say, they come to me talking to me, is like, well, I'm not a pastor, so I didn't tell them about Jesus. Because for whatever reason, people think they have to do what I do to be able to tell people about Jesus, and that's just not true. And so opposition comes, and you hear the mockery, but then the worst part of opposition is then it comes from the internal, doesn't it? Then you start to try to convince yourself, and the enemy creeps in our thoughts and in our whisper, and he whispers to us, and he whispers and he whispers. I'll give you an example from my own life. So here in probably about 30 minutes, we're going to end, around 30 minutes. And I'll go to the back and I'll greet you guys and I'll say, have a great week, and we'll fist bump, we'll shake hands and all this other stuff. And some of y'all will come to me and say, man, that was such a good sermon today. Thank you so much. Thank you. And look, let me tell you, I love it. I love it because it is encouragement and it helps my soul. But there are some Sundays, right? I know it's not that great of a sermon. okay? And sometimes I feel like y'all are just telling me that and just saying it because, well, you're supposed to say it, right? And so, but here's the thing. I know when it's not as good of a sermon as it could be. I feel it. But here's the thing I also know. I'm not going to hit a home run every time I come up here. I might get a bunt single, right? So there was a couple weeks ago, I felt that, like, and there was a couple of you guys came up to me and was like, you told me specific things about the sermon, how good it was, and stuff like that, and you know, but when I do hit a bunt single, it kind of eats at me, right? Because really the only one responsible for the delivery and everything is me. I can't blame anybody else, right? It's just me, and so there was a couple Sundays ago, I was beating myself up pretty good, and I had to literally remind myself of this. And I had some pastor friends that reminded me of it too after I talked to them. And but here's what I would tell you about this is that it can eat at you. Like it can eat at, no matter how good the sermon or how not good the sermon was, it can eat at me if I feel like it's my own inner workings. It has nothing to do with you guys. It's just my own heart and the way I feel. Sometimes I just don't deliver it right. That's why I don't preach every Sunday, because sooner or later you're like, you only work one day a week, right? But I need time away because I say the same things and I have the same illustrations and they're always about sports, and you guys like, can't you talk about cooking or something like that? Well, yeah, I can. But here's the thing, and here's the best thing I'm grateful for. No matter how good or how bad my sermon, how I feel like it is, the Holy Spirit's bigger than that. That's the good thing about it, right? But here's what I know, and here's what comes up on a Sunday afternoon or Monday morning, and what I have to remind myself of this, that opposition is not proof that God is absent. It's evidence that God is at work. And I see it in you guys' life. I see God at work. I see God at work in our church. And so Sanballat and Tobiah, let me just tell you, they weren't worried about nothing. There was a reason why they were worried. They were worried because rebuilding the wall meant something. It meant reestablishing and restoration of God, of worshiping the one true God. And they weren't happy about it. And so it's important that we understand opposition, because here's the flip side of that, okay? Here's when you should be worried. If there's not opposition. And you're like, what? Why? Because the enemy isn't going to worry about what doesn't matter. Okay? So if you're facing opposition, let it be a sign to you. Because it's all through the Bible. Moses had Pharaoh. David had Saul. Jesus had the Pharisees. The early church had persecution from everywhere they looked. Because opposition follows God's light. So if you're facing resistance, you're facing criticism, obstacles, spiritual attack, consider it that you're probably not on the wrong path. You're probably right where you need to be. And you're building something that matters to God. And if it matters to God, the enemy wants to destroy it. So what was Nehemiah's response to Sanballat and Tobiah? Look at verse 4. It says, "Hear us, O God, for we're despised. Turn their insults back on their heads. Give them over as plunder in a land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders." Nehemiah's response? Prayer. Prayer is always our first response. Prayer is our first response. Nehemiah's response was to pray first. And you're probably like, you say that all the time. We pray first. You know why we say it all the time and why it's one of our core values? Because we're really easy to forget it, right? And so if we forget it, we got to say it a bunch. Like we hear it and we know it, but we just don't do it. And here's the thing about Nehemiah's prayer, and these prayers, they're called imprecatory prayers, right? They make us a little bit uncomfortable, because we don't like prayers like this. We prefer God bless them, God heal them, not God kill them. Okay? I mean, let's be honest, right? That's not something we really, I don't think I've ever prayed that about anybody. I don't think. I might have. But here's what I think we miss in this prayer from Nehemiah. He's bringing his heart. He's bringing his hurt. He's bringing his anger. He's bringing his frustration directly to God. He doesn't suppress it. He doesn't try to do it himself. He doesn't pretend he's not effective. He just says, God, please. He brings the raw reality of opposition to the only one that can do something about it. And he brings it right to God. Like, this is crucial. When we face opposition, our natural tendency, my natural tendency is to do what? Obsess over it. Right? Go back to my preaching illustration. Every single one of you could, except for one, could come up to me and tell me how great the sermon was, and one person could come up to me and was like, I just didn't think it was that good. Now, none of y'all do that, so thank you very much. But I would hear the one and not the other. Because we obsess over the opposition. We replay the words in our mind. We strategize how to respond. We lose sleep thinking about what can we do next, or how we do respond, and then we lose sleep over how we did respond, and we're like, I could have done this, and I could have done this, and I should have said this, right? Anybody been there? Man, I wish I would have said, I wish I'd have just punched him right, right? Like, you know? And what we do is we give power of our emotions over to the opposition. We let them control our peace. We let them control our focus. And we wonder why we live in a society where anxiety and depression is so high. Now, I know it's not, I know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's not as easy. So, well, you should just pray about it, right? That doesn't always cut it. That should be part of it. But if you're anything like me, instead of praying about it, I obsess over it. What I should have done better, what I could have done better, what I should have said better, as opposed to just taking it to God. We forget to pray. You see, prayer does something powerful in us. It does something powerful in us. It shifts our attention from the size of our enemy to the size of our God. Right? Nehemiah, essentially, he's saying this: God, you see what they're doing. You hear what they're saying, and I'm putting this in your hands. And in doing so, what he's doing is he's releasing the burden of defense to God. He's just saying, I don't have to prove myself to them. I don't have to listen to them. I don't have to win this argument. He just keeps building. Just keeps building. Keeps building. Let God deal with the opposition. I'm going to keep building. Look, some of you need to stop rehearsing the criticism and start rehearsing the character of God and who He is. Stop replaying the insults and start leaning in and replaying God's promises. Because here's prayer, it will not change your circumstances, but it can always change your perspective. So look at verse 6. Look what they did. After they prayed, they said, so we rebuilt the wall till it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the people of Ashdod heard that they were rebuilding, or heard that the repairs of Jerusalem's walls had gone ahead and that the gaps were being closed, they were very angry. They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and to stir up trouble against it. In verse 9, but we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. Here's what prayer does. Prayer produces perseverance. Because it was only, I believe it was only because of their prayer life that prepped them for this moment that they were able to continue. Because as we see, progress is happening. The wall got to half its height, and it provokes them, and there's escalation into this, right? Their mockery is now turning into conspiracy. They're trying to come together and they're going to fight against Jerusalem. And more people joined. It wasn't just Sanballat and Tobiah anymore. You got the Amorites, you got the Arabs, you got the people of Ashad. Because when criticism doesn't disrail you or derail you, the obstacles multiply. Listen, the closer you get to completion, the fiercer the battle becomes. The harder it's going to get. And I've seen it so many times. People are right on the edge of breakthrough, and they give up. Some of you are in this phase right now. You've been faithful. You've been obedient. You've been praying. You've been begging. You've been fasting. And instead of things getting easier, it's just getting harder. It's just getting harder. The marriage you've been fighting for just gets more and more strained. The job you've been planning for and been told that you would get and promoted to just isn't working out. It faces new challenges, and the breakthrough that you've been believing for feels further and further and further away. Can I encourage you this morning? The fact that the opposition is intensifying might be proof you're getting really close to the breakthrough. Because the enemy will not waste energy on lost causes. He attacks what threatens him. It's what he does. But what Nehemiah teaches us here is the same thing he did last week. Well, he didn't do it last week. Well, we talked about what he did last week. Is you can't choose between praying and working. You got to do both. And he says, we prayed, but we also placed a guard to handle business. If business needed to be handled, my man handled the business, right? You see, prayer without action is presumption, and action without prayer is self-reliance. But combined, prayer and action, that's how God's people overcome opposition. Prayer is what sustains us. It's how we persevere. It's the long game of obedience. It's how you get 42 crews working in the same direction to gather materials and build one single thing that all comes together. It keeps our hearts engaged with God while our hands are engaged with His work. Prayer is about perseverance. So if you'll flip over to chapter 6, the opposition kind of reaches its climax, and they're getting really close to finishing the wall. And the enemies are actually plotting to harm Nehemiah personally, and they're spreading lies, and they're trying to intimidate them, and they're trying to stop the work. They're going through every measure possible. And we get to verse 9, and Nehemiah is worn down. He's tired, as you might expect, right? Not only is he working to build the wall, he's having to deal with these guys yelling at him and calling him names and trying everything in the book to derail them. And he gets to verse 9, and the second half it says, "But I prayed, now strengthen my hands." But I prayed, now strengthen my hands. There's no elaborate theology. There's no lengthy petition. Just another desperate cry to God. Strengthen my hands. You see, when opposition is overwhelming and when work is exhausting and you feel like your strength is gone, this is the only prayer that we need. God, give me the strength. because I think at this point Nehemiah was spent. And so there was no pretending that he had it all figured out. His prayer is simple. God, strengthen my hands. And the beautiful part of all this, if you look down at Nehemiah 6:15, it says that the walls around Jerusalem were rebuilt in 52 days. A miracle that can only be explained by God. And the walls around Jerusalem are massive. We're talking about the whole city. They're massive. They are the one part that I remember standing when I was in Israel. The one part I remember standing next to was about 40 to 50 feet high. 52 days. And some of that you can see is still the wall that Nehemiah built. It's still standing to this day. The opposition didn't stop him, but prayer sustained him through it. It was the only way that he made it through it. See, God doesn't always remove the opposition. He doesn't take you out of the situation, right? But he always gives you the strength. He always provides the strength to persevere through it. That's what he does. Sometimes God's greatest work happens when we're still in the situation and we're able to look at it and we're saying, only God. That's only him. So I want to give you 5 things this morning. That was kind of the teaching on it. I want to give you 5 things, practical things that I hope you can do this week. Because here's the thing, here's what I know. Every single one of us face opposition in some way, okay? It could be as simple as your alarm clock, right? I'm gonna wake up tomorrow morning, I'm gonna wake up 15 minutes early, and I'm gonna read the Word of God, and then the alarm clock goes off, and you hit snooze. And then you get up late then at that point, right? You're like, oh, I didn't do it, and then right? That's opposition. That's a form of opposition. And so here's what I'll give you 5 things to pray through opposition. Number 1, bring your emotions to God. Don't hold back. Don't try to whitewash your prayers to God. He knows, okay? He knows how you're feeling. Don't try to sanitize them. He can handle your frustration, your anger, your fear. Like Nehemiah didn't pretend everything was all right. He basically said, Lord, turn your wrath upon them. He poured out his heart. If you don't think that's in the Bible, go read the Psalms. There are Psalms of lament. A lot of them aren't pretty. They're not songs that we turn into, to put a nice little tune to and sing them on Sunday morning. The Psalms are filled with honest prayers. So bring your honesty to God. Bring your emotions to God. Like some of you just need to go out in the backyard by yourself and tell God how you really feel. It's okay. He can handle it. So bring those emotions to God. Number 2, shift your focus from the enemy to God's character. Shift your focus. Quit focusing on what the enemy's telling you. Focus on God's character. Right? That's why, like, all the prayer models that we have that I try to teach to you, we try to talk about, and if you come to First Wednesday prayer night, we always start our corporate prayers with what? Telling God how great he is. Who he is. We're just going to tell him back. He already knows it, but we need to tell him. We're going to start with his character. We're going to start with what he's done. We're going to start with how great he is, how faithful he is, how just he is, how he's our defender, how he's our strength, how he's all these things to us. Because it reminds us. It's not so he can be reminded. He knows. It's to remind us how great he is. It's to remind us how good he is. It's to remind us that he is those things to us. It's a reminder that God ultimately is bigger than any opposition you will ever face. So don't focus on the enemy. Focus on God's character and who he is. Number 3, different way to pray. Ask God for strength, not removal. Like, I think the easy prayer is, God, get me out of this situation. Right? God, will you get me out of this? I think a lot of times the answer to that was, I didn't put you in that. You did. But this might not always be the right prayer. Sometimes it might be. Sometimes I think we need to pray, God, strengthen me in this situation. Right in the midst of it. Give me the grace to endure. Give me the wisdom to navigate. Give me the courage to keep building like Nehemiah did. Right in the midst of the opposition. God, I ask for your strength. Right in the midst. So ask for strength, not removal. Number 4, combine prayer with action. Look, don't just pray, work. Don't just work, pray. Like, trust God in the whole situation, right? But exercise wisdom and responsibility. Post guards to take care of the problem when the problem comes. The way we like to say this is, take your next step. Don't let the fear of the opposition grip you and keep you where you are, because that's what the enemy wants. So combine prayer with action. And then the last one, just keep building. Keep building. What I love about this story is, y'all know those were humans that heard the insults of Sanballat and Tobiah. And I don't know about you, but at some point, I would have come off that wall with my hammer onto their head, right? Like it would have been, but they didn't. They just kept working. They kept working. They kept working. They kept moving forward. They kept building. They never stopped building the wall. And in 52 days, it was complete. Think about that. Think of what it took for these 42 construction crews to do that. It can only be explained by God. So in a moment, we're going to respond. I want to invite the band back up. And I think there's a verse back over, if you flip back over to chapter 4. It's in verse 4, it's verse 17. I think it speaks volume about how dedicated the workers were to finishing. It says they worked with all their heart in the verse we read earlier. But I think verse 17 really kind of sheds light on their dedication to the work. It says, and I don't think it's on the screen, so you just have to look at it, but it says, those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other. Look, this is our weapon. This is the weapon that we use. And that, I can't think of a better illustration to use of they prayed and they worked. They prayed and they worked. They prayed and they worked. Whatever God has called you to build, right? No matter what it is, a family, a ministry, a business, a testimony of faith, Keep building. Put your weapon in one hand and work with the other. Pray through it, work through it, build through it. Put your weapon in one hand and build with the other. Don't let the criticism silence you. Don't let fear paralyze you. Pray and work. And I'll close with this. If you're here today and you're facing opposition, and you know it, like it's right there in your face, and you're facing it day by day, I want you to consider that just maybe you're on the right path. And that God is at work in your life and the enemy knows it. And he's going to do everything he can to bust it up. John 10:10. It gives you the vision and the mission of the enemy. It's to kill, steal, and destroy. And the question really for all of us is not whether when opposition or if opposition will come, it's just when. Because if you take a step for God, I can promise you, it's coming. I see it in so many people's life. We're going to celebrate baptism here in a few weeks, right? And I see it every time someone's baptized. I even tell them, expect attacks. Because it ticks off the enemy. I see it. Somebody takes a step to be generous and something happens in their life. It's how you push through it. Will you quit? Will you retaliate? Will you collapse? Or will you do what Nehemiah did and keep building? Opposition is not a sign of failure. It's a sign in your life that God is at work. And prayer is the weapon that sustains us through it. So whatever God has called you to build or rebuild, your heart, your home, your church, your business, community, don't stop. Don't stop building. Pray through it. Pray through the mockery. Pray through the threats. Pray through the insults. And when you feel like you're about to give out, do what Nehemiah did. You don't have to come with elaborate prayers. It's, God, strengthen my hands. Because here's what I know. The same God that answered Nehemiah's prayers, simple prayers, the same God that helped them finish the wall in 52 days is the same God who's with you today. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He hasn't abandoned you. He hasn't forgotten you. He's right there with you. And he will give you the strength to endure. Let's pray. Father, today as we close our time, our prayer is simple. Lord, strengthen our hands. Church, let's stand and let's respond this morning.